So now we're going to use all of our vector tools to create this cute little guy right here. We're going to start with the straw and start with the little cup, and then we're going to do the hamburger, and then we're going to create this oblong shape and then add color to everything last. So let's break this cup down a little bit. We're going to move, I'm going to unlock this layer. I'm just moving him over to the right, and we're just going to kind of, instead of tracing, we're just going to kind of look at it. So what we're going to do is we're going to emulate this by creating a rectangle tool, and we're going to get the curvature tool, and we're going to add a little bit of bends to our cup because cups aren't straight across. If you look at how cups are, they're usually circular, so we're just going to click in the middle to create kind of the rounded part of the cup. We're just going to expand that out to make it not just straight up and down, but has a little bit of a kind of natural bend there. So just, I got the curvature tool, I'm just continuing to edit that. Let's do a stroke of the ellipse tool, and let's draw kind of the rim of the cup. Let's go ahead and just take samples of this color so it can kind of help us out a little bit. So let's make that a stroke and make it pretty thick. So there's our rim, and this can be our main cup. And let's kind of bring this in a little bit more. Getting our direct selection tool and bringing it in. We can even round those corners. We can kind of click and round, which can be helpful. I don't need to round the top, but I do need to round the bottom, so I'm just going to click until I get that symbol and just round the two bottoms. So there's kind of the basis of our cup. Let's draw another circle in the middle to kind of be our shadow kind of background or the inside of the cup. I'm going to hold down Command left bracket and send it backwards, and just go ahead and take a sample of that gray. Let's talk about gradients. We're going to do gradients a little bit later in the course, but let's talk about the very basics of gradients. So here's our gradient tool. Right, we have a couple different options. You have a radial, which is like a circle gradient. You have freeform gradient, which is a brand new tool, and you have linear gradient. I'm just going to do a linear gradient. I want to recreate this where I have this darker shadow and I have it a little bit lighter at the bottom. It's very subtle. So I'm just going to click and hold and get a little gradient, and I don't even need that green color. Let's get rid of that. Just need a two-tone gradient, just like that, and we can kind of create a shadow there. So let's create the straw. So here's how we're going to do the straw. We're just going to get the rectangle tool. Just going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to draw another one, and I'm going to bend it right here, just like that. And I'm going to join these together. Let's go ahead and make them the same color straw, and let's get that shape builder tool. And I'm just going to add all this together, and now we have a straw, just like that, using the shape builder tool and some basic shape tools. Let's add this kind of red line here, diagonal red lines. So we're just going to create a couple of red lines here. Just going to hold down Shift and duplicate this. And let's do two up here. We're going to angle all these. And we're going to angle all these. Well, first thing what I want to do is I want to have the same spacing between all these. So I could just go up to my align panel and do a vertical distribute center. And so now it's going to distribute equal spacing between those red lines. Now we also want to add an angle because most of these have little angles to them. So I'm just going to add an angle and then make these a little bit bigger. So just having an angle going across. And let's do an angle going this way. So it doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to be trimming everything up. I'm going to select everything. Once again, this amazing shape builder tool. Hold down Option, and I'm going to be able to get the subtraction sign. And I'm just trimming everything. I'm just selecting everything on the outside and releasing. Let's do it again. Just trimming the outside. And just like that, we have a cute little straw that we can use. I'm going to bring it in. Let's go ahead and group these together. So I'm going to click it all, right click, group. So now I have the straw as one grouped element. Let's Let's go ahead and put a little angle on our straw. Put them in here and let's send them backwards in the layering system. So Command left bracket, sending them back. So here's the problem that we have with this rim. We want this to be inside the cup, but we also want it to be, I'll show you the final. We want it to be inside the cup, but we don't want it to be outside of the cup. So it can't really be, we gotta have to trim this somehow. So what we could do is bring this back. So Command right bracket, let's bring it back in front. We just need to kind of trim this up. So we can do that by just drawing a shape. And what I do, I want to trim that up. So I'm just taking the pen tool. I'm going to draw what I want to cut out. So I want to cut this part out so it looks like the straw is inside the cup. So I have this like different colored shape I just drew with the pen tool. And now we could take the shape builder tool and we can kind of cut all that out. So hold down Option and cut all these little items out. And just like that, we have our little straw that is kind of resting in the cup. And we want to create a little sense of shadowing here. So why don't we draw that with the pen tool? I'm just going to be creating a little bit of a shadow coming out. The straw is going to cast a little bit of a shadow. We can use the curvature tool to add a little bending to the shadow right here. Looks a little more realistic. So when we zoom out, we're going to take the eyedropper tool, we're going to sample that gray, and we're going to double click and just make it a little darker. It's going to be our shadow. So when you zoom out, it looks like it's a shadow. The straw is casting a shadow on the other side. So as you can see, it's not exactly how I did it before, but you know, we're doing it pretty quickly and pretty fast. Let's create a little bit of a highlight on the cup, just like you see on the right. So we are going to get our pen tool, we're just going to click and just do like a short little line. Let's make this white because it's a highlight. So just going over to our color panel, we're going to make it white. And let's make it a stroke and make it a certain thickness. And let's make sure our round cap is on. So it's got a nice little animated cutesy feel. Let's do a circle on top to complete the highlight. Make sure it's a fill. And we got a little highlight going on. So let's do our cute little smile. So this is going to be done with the pen tool. I'm going to click over here and I'm just doing a line. Let's go ahead and make it black. Make it a black stroke. Make sure it's got the round caps on. And instead of just drawing 3 points, I'm going to take the curvature tool and easily make a smile, just like pulling it down. And let's create the eyeballs. So let's do an eyeball. Make that a fill, and I want to create a little bit of a highlight. So I'm going to make that the same color as the background. And I want to punch this out, so if I ever change the cup color, it's going to change with it. So I'm going to do the shape builder tool and just punch that little middle part out. Now let me just hold down Option and then make sure those are aligned. So you can kind of see this is complicated, but in the end it's really not too bad. Just a lot of steps, but it's nothing we haven't covered yet. We've covered all these tools so far in the class. You just have to kind of practice, practice, practice. So here's our little smiley face. Let's put it in the center of the cup. So there is the basis of our cup, and so now we get to do the little hamburger guy. So what we're going to do is let me move him over and have room to do the hamburger. So we're going to try to emulate this hamburger. So one thing we could do is we can get the rounded rectangle tool. Now we're going to do the bun first. So I'm just going to sample this color and get our curvature tool. And every bun has this kind of rounded top. So we're just pushing it up. And we might be able to delete those points because it's kind of got a weird divot there. And that's no problem because we could just delete or hold down the negative sign. Just delete that anchor point. So now we have kind of a better bun. And of course we can get the direct selection tool and we could customize this anyhow, any way we want. So there's our hamburger bun top. So let's do our meat. So let's do the rounded rectangle tool for our meat. And let's get the sample color. And I don't think we need too much of a roundness. We just need a little roundness. And you know how a hamburger patty is. It kind of has bevels out on the side. So let's get our curvature tool, just add a little bit of roundness to the side of the patty. And let's send that to the back. So send it all the way to the back so our bun is over it. So now we're going to want to have a tomato. So let's do our tomato. Let's do a rectangle tool this time. Let's do red. And we want to get our curvature tool and add a little bit of curve to this tomato. And we want to make it kind of extend past the bun or the meat. Great. So let's do another bottom bun. Let's get the rounded rectangle tool. Sample our color. And let's push this out a little bit, make it a tiny bit more square. And let's round the corners on this tomato ever so slightly. So some slightly rounded corners. And let's draw our lettuce with the pen tool. And we're just going to kind of come out from here. Just do some lettuce, just clicking and holding and making some round lettuce leaves and have it end back here. This top part doesn't matter because that's going to be covered by the tomato. And let's sample our green. And let's send this backwards in the layering system. So Command left bracket, set it behind the tomato, maybe extend it out a little bit more. Let's do our curvature tool and bring this down. Let's give that a curve too. So we're getting pretty close. Let's do some highlights. Click and hold, doing the same type of highlight we added before. We can even get our eyedropper tool and sample the same thickness. And this bun is a little wonky, so let's just get our direct selection tool and see if we can't get something we're a little happier with. And it might be I need to delete that anchor point. So I'm just deleting this one anchor point, and I think that's going to match the other side a little better. There we go. That's a tiny bit better. So let's add our happy face. We already did that, so we just need to copy and paste our happy face. Bring it on over. Maybe make it a little smaller to fit on top of the hamburger. Pretty close, I must say. And look, I have a little shadow here that's cast from the bun onto the meat. So let's draw that really quickly. That'll be easy because that's just a simple rectangle tool. We'll make it the same color, but just make it a little darker. So we're going to double click and just move it, make it a little darker. And we're going to send that backwards. So backwards in the layering system, right about there. And let's get the curvature tool at the same curve that we have with everything else. So yay, there's our happy hamburger. There's our happy drink. Let's integrate these together. Let's group him together. Let's group him together. And we're going to start to incorporate these guys together. So let's put him here, and let's put him over top. And let's do our little oblong shape. So we can take a circle, put it in the back, and we can make this oblong by getting the curvature tool. You notice a theme here, how much we're using that curvature tool. Just pushing things out and making it kind of an oblong shape. It's a pretty popular kind of shape to do, especially in web design, UX, UI design. You'll see these little oblong, not quite a circle, not quite, it's kind of an abstract circle. You kind of see that everywhere. So what I want to do is I want to push elements outside the circle so it looks more layered. That's what I'm doing here. So it's not going to be the exact same circle I made, but it'll be pretty close. And what I want to do is I want to add a gradient here. So I'm going to get my gradient tool and I'm just going to click and hold. Let's see what I have here. Let's get our gradient panel out here. And let's get our linear gradient. Okay, so now we're going to be able to click and hold. Let's just make it a simple 2-color gradient. Okay, so we're going to double click on this swatch and we can make it any old color we want. We could do green, and then we can go here, double click. We could take this eyedropper tool and sample the green we already have, and then we can make it darker. So let's, I think that's right here. Double click that and let's switch and make it just a little darker, just so it kind of has a sense of highlight and shadows. And this is a pretty complicated project. Don't feel like you have to nail this right away. You should be able to do a project like this after years of training, but I want to see if you guys can do this now. So we're just using a lot of tools. So I don't want you guys to feel too intimidated. We need to create a quick shadow here. So just taking the pen tool, we're just going to trace around both shapes, kind of make what we think would be a shadow. And don't worry, just trace over here. We're going to be able to use the shape builder tool later. Let's do a darker color, green, or actually let's do a black. Let's go to our swatches and just make this a black. Let's send it backward into the layering system. Let's reduce the transparency on this so it kind of blends in a little bit better. So let's go to change the transparency on a layer. You're going to go to transparency. So I don't even think I have that window up. There it is, transparency. Here's our transparency window. This is how you do blending modes, which we went over in the Photoshop section of the course. And this is also how you do opacity. So I'm just going to reduce the opacity. And I want to trim that off, but that's no big deal because we have the shape builder tool. So I'm going to select this object and the object it intersects. I'm going to get the shape builder tool, held down option, and subtract. So I was able to kind of trim that shadow very easily. So I'm going to go ahead and bring all my windows back over here. I think that was pretty close. We did this, what, 15 minutes? We're able to kind of reproduce this. So that's the original I did earlier. Of course, we could change our, that was some sizing difference between the two with the face, but I think we did most of the main elements of this. You could bring it into Photoshop, add a little texture to it, do some dodge and burn, and kind of get some depth with this as well. We could even draw more shadows, like we have this little shadow here. We could keep doing shadows just like we did with the meat, but continue to draw shadows. We could make this more complex if we wanted to, but we're just learning these basic tools. Look at what we did. I just want to show you what we all did. We traced all of this together. That's amazing what you've done. Some of you guys have never opened Illustrator. Some of you guys have played around with it for a few minutes, or you maybe have even more experience than that, but you don't have extensive experience. It's kind of why you're taking this class. You can really learn all the tools and how I use them as a professional designer. You guys did amazing doing this with me. So whether you're watching this and doing it with me, or you're just watching it to learn first and then doing it later, let me know what you think of the tracing worksheet if you enjoy learning this way, or if there's another way you guys want to learn. This is a brand new section. I just filmed it, updated, a little different than the way I taught the class before. So let me know what you think. We got one more. I got a bonus. I think I'm going to do this really quickly as bonus. I got some pixel art we can do, kind of really using grids to make some really interesting geometric shapes. We're going to be using that in the logo design process later. We're going to be creating a geometric object there and using grids, but I just want to kind of introduce you to this real quick as kind of an extra bonus.